السلام عليكم. 1 2 تيست تيست 1 2 مزيان سوبر يلا 1 2 تيست تيست 1 2 تيست هذا مزيان. مولاي الشريف مزيان. ما عندناش ضبطات SBA هما اللي فاهمين شوف نعيط ما عنديش شكل لما يمشي زدن لنا الهين ما عرفت علاش هاد الحاجات يديها والو تنديرو واحد اخر عادي ما مشى الساعة تيمشي لينا غير مشى هكا تبروشي والو هكا تيدير طق 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 والو انا شكيت زعما في ها هو دابا لا لا ردو دابا هنا وهنا سير هادي دير هاديك الديكاتا شتيها هادي هكا شتيها طق 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 نجيب واحدة أخرى قلت لي أنا نجيب واحدة أخرى ما غادي يبداو لفينا على اليمين رضا زاد شوف عندك أنت ولكن هذا ديال ماك ماك هذا ماك يلا شي جرب إلا خدم الماك لا نديرو هذا شوف إلا خدم لنا هذا رضا جايب واحد رضا باش تعطيك دو زيكران هذا وهذا لا لا صافي وهذه كانت قريبة كانت
comprends pas comment manque. Ok.
الدراري بلا ستريس بلا والو. اجي هذا حطو فوق الطبله باش ما يبقاش يدلع. فيكسيه مزيان، راه يزلق بوحدو، فيكسيه مزيان، ما يقرب له حتى واحد. دابا عاد غنفيكسيه. ولكن البلان شنو ما كيخرجش عندنا تما.
شنو بروف؟ لا الماكرة كيتخلقوا فيه هذا.
Ayman, c'est bien. Atman aussi, good Atman. Moi je m'appelle Ayman Bounoussan. Je travaille pour Coca-Cola. Vous avez la pêche. Ne vous inquiétez pas, tout va super bien se passer. Tout va bien se passer. Prenez de l'eau. D'accord. Buvez un peu d'eau, c'est important, l'eau. Et puis, on est avec vous. Voilà, voilà, c'est super. Donc, vous avez présenté quel projet? On a besoin d'énergie. Bien, hein? On peut voir de l'énergie avec Coca-Cola ou là avec... Super. C'est la dernière année, hein? Vous êtes en quatrième année. Ouais, c'est bon. Vous venez de quel cursus? Option physique fine. Mais ça ne dit pas. À l'Akhawayn. Management. Super. Hein? Finance. J'aime bien les sous. Moi, quand j'étais jeune, j'avais peur de ça. Hein? Ah, manipuler le consommateur. Hein? Lui vendre des trucs dont il n'a pas besoin. C'est bien. It's all about psychology. It's all about psychology. Il y a des principes dans le marketing, des mécanismes, comme le decoy effect. Vous connaissez le decoy effect, hein? Ça, c'est des mécanismes de réflexion qui sont formatés dans nos têtes. Il n'y a pas de on arrive à... Moi, j'étais comme toi aussi, j'étais passionné de marketing parce que j'aimais bien la pub, le fait de convaincre les gens qui allaient comme ça, qui voulaient là, il faut aller par là. Bien sûr, il faut de tout pour ça. Bon. Il faut des gens qui aiment la finance, des gens qui aiment le consommateur et la psychologie, des gens qui aiment la stratégie. Donc, bon courage en tout cas. Hein.
very easy going. They're very easy going. You're putting it back? لا لا صافي كلشي خدام.
زينب قولي التايمين اللي عطيناه.
اساس خدفون.
صافي
صافي كوثر كوثر سوق.
Test, test.
هذاك ديال الجوري. لا لا خلي ما يتقاش.
Testing, test. You can take the audio down just a tad. We appreciate your patience. We had the rooms changed, and so the team needed a few extra minutes to get their technology together. We know you understand, and I hope he takes the audio down a bit. There we go. So if you'll wait one moment, we'll have Dean Neville come. I'm Deborah MacArthur. I'm glad to welcome you all here. So we'll wait one moment, and she will start. Thank you. And there is coffee and juice and water in the corner if you'd like it. And you're live.
Well, marhaba bikum. We have finalists today for the Capstone competition. And I'm honored to be I'm Dr. Neville, I'm the Dean of the Business School, and I'm going to introduce our judges, all from the corporate sector, and we're very excited and honored to have them here. So, for your information, if you haven't cued from the poster, in order that they sit on the poster, Ahmad bin Musa is the CEO of Coca-Cola North Africa. Hisham Buskri is the CEO of Microtonics, and I've written down extensive startup experience, so be careful, huh? Badr Idrisi is Software and Artificial Intelligence, CEO of Atlan Space. I have got in different order. Marie-Alexandre Labourie is the country director for the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in Morocco. And Lou Winooski is with us he's the CEO of TDM Aerospace, a relatively new corporation in Morocco context with extensive experience globally. With that, the rules of the game, you have 20 minutes. Zaina will start the timer. We'll then have 20 minutes or more with judges' questions and answers, offer you feedback, and do transition, but we want to make sure that you have your full time. So we're starting a few minutes late, and we will make the most of it. Are the judges ready? Yeah? Okay, you may begin.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Dear faculty, friends, and family, thank you so much for being present with us today, and welcome. First of all, we have to say that we're delighted and proud to be at this step of the competition. And it is such a privilege to have our beautiful jury in front of us today. And on the behalf of our group, we would like to thank you for honoring us with your presence. So today, we are managing the second largest mining company in Morocco. And now we're going to show you how we're gonna help electrify Morocco and Africa using one of our most precious metals, cobalt.
Let's talk about the company context. Managem Group, a Moroccan player in the mining sector. It has been operating for more than 85 years in the extraction, recovery, and marketing of base, precious metals, and cobalt, and as well as other mineral resources in Morocco and Africa. Cobalt mining, however, is one of the oldest and most profitable activities of the group, which began in 1930. In fact, in 1997, the group's R&D division and innovation division benefited from modern technology used to convert cobalt into high-quality cobalt cathodes. In this way, generating added value for the whole group, and Morocco as well. Indeed, it is basic for our company to coordinate the concepts of durability, sustainability, and the recycling into the development of the mining action so as to save its assets, convey the cleanest innovations, and limit our effects on Earth. In 2010, the group made a new invention, which is a cobalt battery, lithium-ion battery that does not heat up for mobile phones and personal computers. As we can see, folks, today, Managem does have the expertise, the R&D expertise, the minerals and resources to make our innovation a success and make it worth the investment.
Now, guys, we will get to the heart of our project. It is an innovative business model for a mining company. For nearly a century now, Managem has been exploiting cobalt. It is the little blue and shiny mineral you see on the top picture. For nearly 50 years, they've just have been extracting it and selling it as raw material. In the 90s, as my teammates said, they started to process it and transform it to a cobalt cathode. I will give you a small lesson about how batteries work so you get what is a cobalt cathode. So basically, they took cobalt, made it into the negative side of the battery. As you know, there is an anode and a cathode. A cathode is the negative side. So they made nearly half of the battery and sold it to other manufacturers that were outside of Morocco. So we thought about manufacturing those batteries, manufacturing lithium-ion batteries, as we have nearly 30% of the raw material, and Managem has previous experience, R&D experience with batteries. And we aim to commercialize those batteries into the stationary storage systems for renewable energy sources. And the cool thing about cobalt is that it is recyclable, fully recyclable. So we could get the cobalt from the battery we have created after the end of their life cycles to put them into the process once again, so we have an unlimited source of cobalt. Our strategy will aim to add value to the product, to cobalt in Morocco, so therefore it will increase job opportunities and wealth inside the country. Why does our project matter? So here is a stationary system that generates and exploits renewable energy sources. As you can see here, energy is exploited from renewable energy such as wind or solar. It can either be distributed into the grid or directly consumed by the end consumer. But the thing is about renewable energy sources is that they are interchangeable, but they could not be exploited on demand. It isn't windy every day, and the sun won't shine forever. So we have to store the excess from peak times of energy and redistribute them for later use. As you can see, storage, control management, and conversion is a central part of those systems. Those systems are very effective in bringing electricity to places where the national grid cannot go. So our battery has to be light and affordable. Here we can see the demand for stationary storage by types of batteries. You can see that lithium-ion batteries in this industry was nearly inexistent before 2016 because it's a fairly new product. The sector was dominated by lead-acid batteries. Those are liquid batteries that are huge and could not be transportable to rural areas. We can see that the demand for lithium-ion batteries that we aim to produce is going to exponentially grow. And according to Bloomberg, lithium-ion batteries for stationary usage are forecasted to exceed the batteries, the market of consumer electronics batteries. Those are the ones that we use in mobile phones and PCs. So we think that the market will be as big as we expected, as it is expected to reach a multi-billion-dollar value.
Okay, now moving on to our competitors' context, we have found that we have two main competitors. We have OCP Group, the first largest mining company in Morocco and they're responsible for leading most of the North African countries' phosphate resources. And on the other side, we have the Chemiwatt, a French company that creates a variety of robust batteries, mini-grid batteries, off-grid batteries. Now, when we conducted our SWOT analysis, we have found that we are stronger than our competitors, as we are the first company in Africa to mix between two industries, the renewable energy industry and the mining industry, making our industry more local, sustainable, and efficient. Of course, OCP, they have the opportunity to make similar batteries using their phosphate instead of our cobalt, but they have weak R&D developments that wouldn't let them invest in such innovation. Plus, we found that OCP implemented a deep learning lab, and if we will be the first to implement our strategy, then OCP won't take the risk to invest in such innovation like ours. As for Chemiwatt, why we consider it as our competitor, because their facility is like ours, as we will see next. And also for Chemiwatt, they have weak infrastructure and very outdated technologies that make their batteries big and hard to transport. For the financial overview of Menagem has known a steady increase in production since year 2014, which is a very good financial indicator for our innovation. Also, the years 2017 and 2018 were characterized by a high increase in the group results. When we calculated our financial ratios, we found that the debt to equity ratio decreased from 0.69 to 0.65, which is a good indicator, equaling a 13% decrease in their debt, more than the decrease of the competitors' debt within the past years. For the manufacturing costs, we see here that the manufacturing costs are expected to continue falling, meaning that the costs for our batteries will continue on falling, as the forecasts are from 2010 to 2030, and what we have here is the experience curve, and what resulted in the 2% solar power energy is happening now with batteries. If you see with me, from 2010 till now, we have seen a 75% reduction in the cost of batteries. And what we're going to see now from 2019 till 2030 is another 70% reduction in the cost, which will result in the decrease in the price of the raw materials, and which will be beneficial for us, because also the cost is decreasing, but the demand for our batteries is increasing. Now, moving on to the big numbers, we will need a $75 million initial investment. And we will finance it mainly using the equity. As when we conducted our cost analysis and financial study, we have seen that our company's equity structure is lower than its debt structure. That's why we're going to use equity, and also we're going to take a fund from the European Bank of Development and Reconstruction, since they are very involved in such innovations, and they are promoting the sustainable energy in Morocco. We applied a bottom-up cost that made us conclude a $120 unit cost for our batteries, and a $204 unit price. Now here you can see with me that we have two phases. We have the first phase of the construction and installation of the machines, the factory, the facility, and we will need these costs. We have a $10 million for 50 hectares land in the surroundings of Marrakesh. Why we chose the surroundings of Marrakesh? Because it's next to the mining site of cobalt. It's called Bouazzar. And also we're not gonna do we're not gonna construct the facility inside Marrakesh, since it's gonna create interruptions in the electricity. And we're gonna need $20 million for the construction fees, high quality infrastructure, $30 million for the machinery cost, including its installation and so on, and more than $10 million for the labor costs. When we're gonna start operating, we're gonna need 5 years to break even. We found that we need and we are able to produce 15,000 units per month, meaning 15,000 mini-grid battery. That will generate for us a 180 million revenues and a separate 75 million profit for us to break even within 5 years. Here are the details of the different costs I have mentioned. So for the land costs, now inside Marrakesh, a hectare costs 3.5 million Ds. And in the surroundings, it costs approximately $200,000, making it a 10 million for our 50 hectares. The construction costs, we're going to need infrastructure costs, electricity generator costs. Since we're not going to use the normal electricity costs, we're going to use electricity generators. And the labor costs, using 300 technicians that will rotate. The machinery costs, as you can see with me, we're going to use connection to networks, operating salaries, and diverse to hedge against any external factors. As for the total cost needed, it's $74.9 million. You see that I approximated. For our customers, our first main customer is Noor, the solar power station located in Ouarzazate. Now, why we chose Noor as our main client? Because we want to reinforce the exchange south to south with Africa. And we want to make our industry more local. Why making a raw material and export it? Let's benefit from it. And also we're gonna sell to foreigner battery makers. That's where the cobalt costs a lot, or does not exist.
So for the job creation part, it will be divided into several phases. One would be the increase of cobalt extraction. Why? Because we still need to satisfy the cobalt demand of our current clients. Therefore, we need to extract more cobalt in order to produce the batteries. After that, we will build the facility, and by all this from 2020 to 2023, and by 2024, we'll start the batteries production and launching our products. With our innovation, we will create nearly 100 jobs by the end of year one, which will be dedicated to more cobalt extraction, design and development, as well as creating indirect jobs, because we will give the opportunity to a third-party construction company to build the factory for us. And by year 4, we will have created as much as 1,000 jobs, because as you might know, mining is an incredibly diverse sector with more than 120 occupations, ranging from skilled trades to high-tech professionals. For more extraction, we need, of course, more design and development jobs, such as geology, prospecting, battery chemistry, and the exploitation field, such as mining production, planning, scheduling, supervision, exploration. And for the actual manufacturing of the batteries, we need production management, assembly lines, and other jobs. And for the management and advice, we need management, business, and financial occupations, as we will create a sales department in which we will control the sales operations and measuring the day-to-day invoice. And this sales department will help us bringing in new accounts and managing them efficiently. And thus, the sales occupations will manage those accounts, make sales decisions, and formulate tactics that will appeal to our buyers as our prospective customers, as well as helping them throughout their procedure to purchase.
Now we will move on to the soul of our strategy, its ethical impact. As you may know, businesses in the modern context are not only aiming to make profit, but they are aiming to positively impact their environment. So ethics is a very important part in each and every company, and especially for one that is managing the natural resources of a country. We put our strategy through multiple ethical tests, and they all came up positive, as our strategy is definitely aiming at decreasing fossil fuel use and therefore CO2 emissions. But the approach that caught our eyes is the rights approach. This approach states that an action is ethical when it preserves or promotes a certain right. And in the 21st century, the right to electrification has become an essential right. As you can see in the picture on your top left, in regions where where people are not connected to the grid, they often use petrol lamps to illuminate themselves. They are harmful and not very effective. Another ethical aspect of our strategy is that nearly 50% of the cobalt in all of the world's batteries comes from the DRC, the Congo. And as you may know it or not, there is nearly no formal mining company in Congo that exploits cobalt, and child labor, low wages, employee abuse is very frequent in this domain. And we're gonna, by using our strategy, we're gonna provide batteries that are controversy-free and created and processed, manufactured by international standards, as Managem always does.
So as you are very qualified to know, change is something very inevitable in the corporate world. And as mining companies adapt to volatile environment, while seeking increasing operational efficiency, they must adapt. And in fact, it requires adaptability, and they have to adapt and manage their impact on their employees. So this following list, it illustrates the 5 organizational enablers which we assume is going to support our change management process upon implementation of our strategy. The first step is identification, and throughout this presentation, we've been able to identify both economic, social, and socio-economic needs, as well as ethical needs, which will lead us to the assessment. At this particular part, our strategy is perfectly aligned with Managem's vision and business culture, which will lead us to design. Design, it will require compiling and mapping out all the necessary intelligence gathered in the assessment above, which will help us in mapping out and clearly structure our strategy and prepare managing employees to implement our strategy, which will lead us to implementation. This is very crucial. Why? Because Managem employees will have to undergo upskilling and training. And the last part and crucial part is embedment. And in fact, reviewing and sustaining our innovation strategy will make it a robust and solid new business model, which will lead us into excelling in this emerging market.
For years, Morocco has been selling its materials raw, without adding to it any value. This could have made billions of dollars of profit and wealth into the country. Our strategy aims at maintaining the whole value chain of cobalt from the extraction to the commercialization, and this will add value, wealth, and create jobs to the country.
as you may know it or not, 600 million people in Africa live without electricity. And our project is ultimately aimed at illuminating Africa using its local resources. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to hand the microphone now to judges. We'll have question and answer. We have a 20-minute time period.
Anybody want to start? Good morning. Ooh, it's pretty loud. Thank you for this presentation. I actually learned a lot about energy and lithium ion and all that stuff. So very, very interesting. I just have a qualifying questions on the financials. When you mentioned that within 4 years you will make $75 million profit and you will break even, what do you mean by break even?
To return our initial investment, because we are financing this project using $75 million, and we calculated how many years we're going to need to return our initial investment and start making a net profit for our strategy.
Very good. So that's the payback time. Okay. Thank you very much. Judges?
Thank you for the presentation. So I had a question related to that specific market you're entering. So as Managem, you know quite well commodities, manufacturing and trading, and you're suggesting that Managem should move on to a finished product, which is a battery with a different competitor landscape and a different market dynamics. So the first question is, do you know what specifically drives that new market you're entering? Is it cobalt that is the most specific, or is it something else, specifically the battery market?
Well, cobalt, there is lithium, because they are known as lithium-ion batteries, but cobalt is the most expensive ones because of the thing I said about Congo. They are the major producer of it, and because there is this controversy about it, its price just plummeted. So lithium is important, but cobalt is even important, and it is rarer and more controversial than lithium, and Morocco is the 12th world exporter of cobalt.
And do you know who are the main exporters of lithium?
South Africa, South America, Bolivia.
Bolivia, yeah, correct. But when you look at the variants of the batteries, so you have lithium cobalt, lithium magnesium, and others. So lithium is the only common material used for all batteries. So if you look into the Bloomberg studies, you will find that lithium is actually the more constrained material among those. But it's interesting that within your strategy, you take that into account and you seek partnership that will give you sourcing, secured sourcing on the multiple front, not just cobalt itself.
Yes, of course.
I would like...
yeah, because battery is not just cobalt, as you said. It's a complicated chemistry that needs hundreds and hundreds of materials.
Yes, and also we took into consideration our cobalt, because according to the new energy finance that Bloomberg conducts, the price of cobalt will, at a spot price now is $79, but it will increase, and the forecasts for 2030, the cobalt demand will be 47 times more than the one we have in 2018. That's why cobalt plays a major role.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. Very interesting. Well done. I have a few questions, so maybe I will ask them and then you can answer one by one. The first one, so basically the concept is to integrate the whole value chain in Morocco, yeah?
Yes.
Up to recycling. Is the recycling, what you mean by recycling, is it the battery?
Yes.
Or is it something, it goes, okay, so it's the battery only, yeah?
It's the battery, and they are already doing it. They started doing it starting in 2010. They started recycling batteries, extracting not only cobalt but other materials from other materials like gold and other materials. They recycle electrical devices too. The whole electrical devices.
So Managem is already doing
recycling electrical devices,
Okay.
batteries, and all of the range.
Okay. So then maybe I misunderstood. Where does the innovation come from?
The innovation is just like we are extending this value chain to minimize the costs and to keep the whole value inside of Morocco.
Okay.
That's the innovations. So we are a mining company that is extending its value chain to provide a product that is more affordable and that the whole value of the cobalt will stay inside Morocco from exploiting till the cycle returns with recycling.
Okay. Thank you. And maybe you worked on that, but you haven't presented it. So what is the environmental impact on all of this? Have you assessed it, be it in terms of real impact, but also in terms of financial impact?
The environmental one, well, we think because batteries will develop the electrical energy industry for the EV electrical vehicles first, so that will decrease CO2 emissions by a lot. And with this project, we are aiming at renewable energy stations. So by using renewable energy stations, we are creating an alternative for the general grids that use diesel, that use fossil fuels till today, because we know that even though we have nuclear energy and other new technologies, but fossil fuels are the main sources of power today, and we think that by creating affordable transportable batteries, we will shift this need to go for renewable energy, for fossil fuels, and make it easier to choose renewable energies in creating our energy.
And if I may add, for both of the questions, we are aiming at promoting the green energy within Morocco. That means the solar one and the wind one. The solar in the south of Morocco and the wind one in the north of the country. As for the environmental impact, to add on what for the environmental impact and so on, and also why we chose this strategy, it is because as a country we should start getting independent, because we export almost everything, and it is time for us to make our industry more local.
Thank you. I have a final question before asking. Just to come back on the financial analysis, you mentioned that your $75 million would be financed by equity. Why don't you go for some more leverage? Is it because I think the debt to equity ratio is okay? So why have you chosen this strategy?
Because also we should mention that it has shareholders that are royal shareholders. So it is fine for us to finance it using the equity, and at the same time continue decreasing our debts till we have no debts.
Why don't you want to have any debt?
Because it's good for us. If we have, because the current ratio and the cash ratio for us are low, and if we decrease our debts, it will be good for us, and it will impact our other ratios, financially speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks a lot for making it easy for me, at least, to understand the business of managing from mining to battery. I have a couple of questions. So the first one is, what about for the ethical impact? What about the local community? Because I saw that you were talking about electrification, but in Morocco we're at 99% of electrification, so you're more talking about Africa rather than Morocco. But what would be the impact for the local communities where the mines are? So because they have already a negative impact with the pollution and the noise and all this stuff. So what would be the positive impact for them with managing increasing their activity there? So this is the first question. Second one is more about understanding the competitors of Managem, you were talking about OCP and Kemiwat. Is Kemiwat a Moroccan company or? It's a French company, not based in Morocco.
The same forecasted one, like 50 hectares, the same components of their mini-grids, off-grids batteries. That's why we did the benchmarking with them.
And they create the same types of batteries we do for those systems, but they are bigger. They create the lead acid ones. They are huge, in huge containers. And that's our competitive advantage against them.
Because your proposition here is that Managem will be changing the industry where it's, where it has been evolving for the last 50 years or more. So it's going from mining to finished good selling. What about developing a partnership with a battery manufacturer that already exists and that would be interested in targeting the same markets as you have presented?
It is possible. It has been proposed to Managem to do it, like in 2011. They said that if a company, like you said, a battery company came to Morocco, they would provide them with the cobalt necessary. But it has been like 7 years and nothing has been done. So we think if we don't jump on the opportunity now and do it ourselves, the market window will gonna close and the train will go away. Because it's a very rapid industry, and it has been growing exponentially since 2014. It just started in 2014, and now it is rapidly growing.
Yeah. And so remains the question about the local community impact. And my last question is about the choice of the site in Marrakesh. You know that batteries are very sensitive to change of temperature, especially heat. So you choose the city in Morocco that goes very high during the summer. How are you going to mitigate this risk of batteries exploding?
Okay, so thank you for this question. First of all, for the positive impact for the people in the region, it's first of all the job creation. And when we say that we will create 1,000 jobs, it's actually way more than that. Why? A job creation strategy will benefit and contribute to economic growth, because when we pay our workers, they will better meet their day-to-day financial obligations, and they will consume more, and more consumption means more production, and more production means more production means more job opportunities elsewhere in other industries. So yeah, this is one of the positive impacts of our innovation.
For the second one, we chose Marrakesh because it is the closest, because it is where the mine is, not the mine. There is a center where they already process the cobalt and recycle it. So we think if we make it closer to it, we make the manufacturing facility closer to it, we will be more efficient and decrease the costs. That's why we didn't think about the heat.
The site is Gemesa?
Gemesa, okay. Yes.
And
Thanks,
also
Gemesa
the
site.
high infrastructure is going to cover that. That's why we chose high costs for infrastructure, to cover the risk problems of heat and so on.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you for an excellent presentation. Couple of questions. One, the innovation, as I understand it, is first of all, Managem is a mining company and now an R&D company, and one of the innovations is you're becoming a manufacturing company. And instead of providing the lithium-ion materials for the batteries, you're going to use them yourself. So what experience does Managem have in manufacturing? I understand they have an R&D capability, but how are we going to ensure that we've got a lean, state-of-the-art manufacturing operation in Marrakesh?
I think that the only way to do it is by partnerships, as your Mr. Badr said, or training. So partnerships are inevitable here because we need even though if we don't give another company the opportunity to create our products, we will need them to teach us how to create them. So we need partnerships because we, as you said, we don't have any manufacturing experience in the battery domain, and we need partnerships to do so.
Just a caution there, as alluded to by Mr. Bader, this is outside of the core competence of the company, it appears. And the company has a decision strategically to make whether they go into that or not. The other question is, from that battery there, now we're going to solar panels. How much of the componentry of that battery goes into a solar panel, and where does it go? Is it 100% recycled?
It doesn't. It's a whole system. It's not only. It doesn't go into the solar panel. So the solar panel generates the electricity. The electricity is stored in the battery at night, for example.
Okay.
Because at day there is a peak of energy.
Okay.
And energy, there is an excess of energy. It has to be stored for later use at night, for example. So the battery, without it, the whole system would fail. It's not that it is composes.
It's the backup. It's the backup system.
Yes,
okay.
it wouldn't work because as soon as the sun will go down, the electricity would be cut without an efficient storage system. So.
Okay, so it's part of the renewable energy system, but what happens to it when its life is over? If you're talking about recycling, it implies that its component parts are being used for another useful purpose when its life is over.
Because, as I said, the cobalt that is in batteries is 100% recyclable. If you take a battery at the end of its life cycle and extract the cobalt, treat it just a little bit, we can reuse it, all of it.
Okay, so you're just talking about the recycling of the cobalt, not the packaging and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Okay. In your investment, you had about 30 million capex.
Invest in our innovation.
It was 30 million. Of that investment, it broke down to machinery.
To the machinery cost.
Machinery cost. So one of the questions is, you're going to use backup electrical energy, and you're in Marrakesh. Why not put solar panels on the roof of the facility with your batteries in it to mitigate your electrical costs and demonstrate your concept?
I did an analysis for this, and I have found that batteries are not enough to install and electrify a 50 hectares factory. That's why we need 7 transformators, and we're going to use what we call in French raccordement au réseau, that we will get our transformators from the ONE, and they're going to help us implement to install those machines. We're going to use the 7 transformators to install our machines. Yeah.
So there is not an opportunity to use it for your own consumption?
But there could be a potential. Like I said, our main client is North, so they can provide us with the solar panels, and we can electrify this. But like we're gonna use we're gonna need more costs to use those solar panels.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and for the solar equipment and so on, like for example, for our client Noor, we're gonna they have a plan by the end of their project they should provide 580 megawatt hour, and we are with the 15,000 units that we are gonna provide them, they're gonna save 22,000 megawatt hour. That's the impact on the solar system, solar power.
Thank you.
I'll have a final question. So Managem will start manufacturing batteries, and in doing so, competing with its own customers. So basically, the day you announce you start manufacturing batteries, you're killing your business of selling cathodes made in cobalt. what is your transition strategy in this period where you're not yet on the market with the batteries, but your customers stop buying your cobalt?
They're not going to stop buying our cobalt. We have seen this, and in our innovation, we have two phases. We mentioned that the first phase is based on doubling the mining of the cobalt, and the second phase is operating. So in the doubling of the cobalt, we're going to provide more cobalt, and when the lifetime of our batteries are going to stop, we're going to start recycling them and use some of the cobalt oxide in them. And cobalt is illustrating a small portion of the cobalt raw material.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, judges, for your questions. Congratulations. We had a little bit of problem at the beginning, and so we're slightly delayed now. Let's try and do a 10-minute turnaround to the next team. Thank you very much.
I'd like to add one more thing, please. First of all, thank you to all the respected judges, our dean and dear professors, our families and friends as well. And last but not least, our goal today is to convey a clean innovation to save the mineral resources of our beautiful country of Morocco. Let's not take this planet for granted. We do not take today for granted. Thank you so very much.